My name is Anita Stephen, and I'm from Progressive Pathways Consulting. I'm your host in this interview series called Pathways to Thriving, where we explore authentic stories, thoughtful insights, and transformative journeys. Today, we're excited to meet Daniel Abishegam. Daniel is the Academic Director and Senior Lecturer at Advanced Tertiary College, also known as ATC.
Yes, I am.
His professional journey is marked by a deep commitment to legal education, student development, and academic leadership. Daniel is a friend, a former colleague, and one of the things I like most about him is his brilliant sense of humor, which I hope you will see displayed throughout this interview. No pressure. Welcome, Daniel. Thank you to being interviewed.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So before we get started, I thought maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself and the whole wonderful family that you've got.
Okay, so my name is Daniel. You've sorted out where I work and all of that. I'm married. I have two kids. I live in KL, right? I've been working at ATC I've been working in legal education for about 23 years now, right? In a few places, but primarily it's been at ATC.
Mm-hmm.
I was in practice before for a while, legal practice as an advocate and solicitor for a while, a very short while, but I very quickly discovered that my passions lie here in teaching, and so I have not looked back ever since I left practice,
Mm-hmm.
and I've enjoyed every moment of it.
Great. So you shared this really interesting bit where you went into legal practice. What was it that got you into legal education? It seems like a bit of a big jump.
Well, I honestly started teaching first. The
Okay.
moment I graduated, I was drafted as a tutor by ATC as well. Like, I studied at ATC as well,
Right.
right? So they kind of pinched me, and I started off as a tutor, and that's where I realized that um, I, I I felt I had a knack for it,
Mhm.
right? But of course, legal practice is sort of the culmination of everything you working for when you started your degree and things like that.
Yes.
So I didn't want to sort of 20 years later sit down and think, should I have gone into practice and things like
Right.
that.
Right.
So it wasn't a situation where I was dying to be a lawyer, but it was more of it's something that I need to try. It was exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I think my experience in practice has stayed with me. It's helped me
Right.
as a teacher as well, definitely.
How has it helped you?
Well, it's enabled me to impart to my students some anecdotes or some practical stuff that they won't get from the textbooks,
Right.
right? So I always tell them the story of my first day going to court as a pupil, and nobody ever told me where the filing room was, right? So I'm standing right in the middle there, lost, because there was no textbook that gives you a map of the court.
Yeah.
And I asked someone, and he started laughing before telling me it
Hmm.
was right behind where I was standing, and I had no clue. So there is that aspect of legal practice that you
Yeah.
will not get in the classroom, in the
Yeah.
textbook, and all of that. So it actually gives me the opportunity to remind students that although what you're studying in your textbooks in your classroom is important,
Yeah.
because if you don't pass your exams, you're not going to get there.
Yeah.
But there's a whole other aspect to legal practice that you must also know, and you will learn from practice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so I went into practice. I was in practice for about 2.5, almost 3 years,
Right.
including my pupillage, and then I was offered an opportunity back in ATC again,
Right.
and then I came back. Yeah.
Okay. So, were there any challenges or lessons that have shaped your approach towards teaching and even leadership?
Well, I have found that. Well, let's start with teaching first.
Yes.
I think the biggest challenge has always been being relatable to the students.
Right.
I think as much as we would like them to just keep quiet and listen to what we have to say,
You mean that doesn't happen?
that, but that is the struggle.
Right.
And this challenge is becoming more pronounced as I
Yes.
get older.
Yes.
And I can feel it, I can sense it. And so it was not something that I felt was a big challenge in my first few years of teaching.
Right.
I could relate to them very easily,
Yes.
but then maybe the struggle was getting the subject matter in my head. So, but now that I have the subject matter well down, it's understanding where they're coming from, understanding why they behave the way they behave.
Yeah.
That seems to be the biggest struggle for me, which is a struggle that I am, and I mean, I enjoy learning about new strategies to get to them, right?
Yes.
So that's been the biggest challenge. I feel that the skill of imparting subject matter to someone else, it is a skill on its own.
Yes.
I've always said just because you're a good lawyer doesn't mean it makes you a good law teacher, not
Yes.
necessarily. But that, I think, I, I'm okay with that. But as part of that, it is imparting it to a different generation of students, or
Yeah.
different generations of students who perhaps learn differently,
Yeah.
who consume information differently, who consume entertainment differently, and
That's
that
right.
counts,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so adapting to that
Yeah.
has been a challenge,
Yeah.
which I think is going to be a constant struggle. But I think the fact that I acknowledge that it's a struggle is half the battle won, and we find ways. We find ways
Yeah.
to address that.
When you talk about relatability, I understand what you're saying because I'm in a training room or I'm sometimes in a classroom, and I think the more grays that you get on your head, well, in your case, it's different, let's say on your beard, um, it changes, relatability changes. Relatability is also a big quality, I think, that is needed in a leader. So, how do you reconcile, um, being relatable in a classroom and being relatable as a leader in your role in ATC?
Well, I've always believed that leadership comes down to how you manage relationship with people, right?
Yes, I've seen
Individuals.
that on your LinkedIn.
I truly believe that. It's not
Yes.
one of those LinkedIn things that people put on LinkedIn. I genuinely believe that if you can manage individual relationships
Mhm.
with the various people in your organization, that is leadership. So you cannot have a one size fits
Mhm.
all leadership motto, I think, right?
Right.
You need to tailor the relationship with different people in your team.
Mm.
You need to tailor it differently, right?
Mm.
So some people are a bit more relaxed in their outlook on life, and so you can be a bit more relaxed with them,
Mhm.
not taking them for granted.
Mhm.
But there are some people that are a bit more, let's say, they get anxious faster.
Mm.
So the
Mm.
same set of words used with one team member will not work with
Yeah.
another team member.
Yeah.
So I have to be constantly cautious of what I say,
Mm.
and I cannot say the same thing to different people,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
right? Now, that may give rise to perhaps accusations that I'm treating people differently,
Right.
right? But I think that's a necessity,
Right.
right? That's a necessity. And so if I am seen treating one person with the velvet gloves and the other just speaking to them directly, it is not because I value one person, the velvet glove person, more than the other.
Mm.
It's because I've learned that the best way to get
Mm.
the most out of them is to speak to them in a different way, and things like that. So for me, that managing of relationships, it's a lot more work.
Mm.
I think it's a lot more
Yeah.
tiring.
Yeah.
It'll be easier if I can just send an email to everyone and
Yes.
tell everyone to do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
but I've learned that that just doesn't work. And a leader that believes that, look, I've sent out instructions, you need to sort it out,
Yeah.
eventually in the long run you're creating more chaos for yourself, because there'll be a lot of pain or anger festering,
Yeah.
right? So if you deal with it individually at what that person needs at that time, I think
Yeah.
that's a lot better. And that's a philosophy that I hold very dear to heart. So it does involve a lot more work, I think so,
Yeah.
because people have accused me of just making more work for myself,
Right.
right? So what I don't like is meetings. I don't do everyone meetings. I
Yes.
do that maybe once a year, only to tick a box
Yes.
for the regulators, you know. But most of my conversations are individual conversations,
Yeah.
and I think I found that
Mm.
works.
A lot more personable as well, I think, from what
I
you're
think so.
saying.
I think
Yeah.
so. People appreciate when you come, when you're going to get them to do something that perhaps they don't want to do or they don't like to do.
Yeah.
They appreciate being told why, and and being told that, you know, you are important, but I need you to do this for the
Mm.
team and things
Mm.
like that.
Mm.
I think that has helped. That has helped.
Right. Um, Earlier, when you spoke about um, your role as an educator, um, that I mean, you spoke with a lot of pride about, like, this is 23 years. We can definitely see that you enjoy it, that you love it. Um, I'm just wondering whether there have been pivotal moments um, or turning points for you in your career as an academic um, and educator.
Hmm.
And I include your role as a leader in
Mhm,
this. Yeah.
mhm. Okay, so for me, uh, a huge moment in my career as a leadership came when I had left ATC for a short while, for
Mm-hmm.
about 4.5 years, to go to another institution. And then ATC was taken over by new owners, and they
Mm-hmm.
had new vision for the place. And the management got in touch with me and said, "Can you come back to ATC and help rebuild?" And that was a gargantuan task at that
Mm.
time, right? It was huge, and I was excited about it,
Mm.
right? And so the past 5 years, is it five?
Mm.
Yeah, 6 years or so that I've come back to ATC. I've worked together with the team that was with ATC the
Mm.
whole while,
Mm.
right? I've worked together with them, and the challenges to rebuild the school,
Mm.
because ATC was facing some challenges at the 2017, 18,
Mm.
19 period, right? These challenges to rebuild the school, turn it around, uh, was something that has taught me a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's taught me to think differently, right? It's taught me to think that I can't just business can't be as usual all the time,
Mm.
right? Sometimes you need to make certain decisions that are painful
Mm.
but necessary, right?
Mm.
Changing the mindset of staff that have gotten used to a style or a culture, but
Yeah.
that culture has resulted in very obvious losses for the company, right?
Right.
That culture has resulted in very, it's not been a good culture, right,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
all. But to change that has been difficult.
Yeah.
So for me, if there's one defining change or
Mm.
point in my career, it's been when I came back to ATC in 2019,
Mm.
and together with the team here, we've been working on making us the success that we are today, and I will say that, right,
Yeah.
proudly, right. Uh, but that change has been tough.
Mm.
It's required of me more than what I had before.
Mm.
A lot of
Mm.
learning, a lot of dealing with people, a lot of
Mm.
hard decisions to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I would pin it down. If I had to pin it down to one, that would
Mm.
be the pivotal change.
The timeline that you're speaking about um, would include the period when we were under
Oh
lockdown.
yeah, yeah.
So how am
That
I
was
right? Would that
yeah.
how would that have how did that impact your building a school at a time when universities and schools all over were beginning to lose
Yeah.
students, not be able to carry on, and I believe at that point you guys started your new campus.
Yeah.
So
So COVID was difficult, right? It's
yes.
extremely difficult, and we made it more difficult on ourselves
Mm.
because we decided to move to our brand new campus here in Jalan Yap Kwan Seng
Mhm.
at that time. And this was the end of 2020, so we're talking right smack in the
Yeah.
middle of the chaos, right?
Yes.
It was challenging, it was extremely difficult, but I also think that this entire COVID process also made us, forced us to think differently. It so, for example,
Yeah.
switching to online classes,
Hmm.
we would a lot of our teachers were resistant to adopting new technology,
Right.
and sometimes for good reason, right?
Yes.
Sometimes for good reason, but they're very traditional reasons and old-fashioned way of thinking. And so, let's say, for example, if this entire pandemic didn't happen, the way in which we teach today in
Yes.
2025 would never have happened, or it wouldn't have happened this fast if it wasn't for the pandemic. Because during that period, we still had to continue with classes.
Yes.
And so the teachers, young and old, new and traditional, were just forced to pick up how to teach online.
Yeah.
And how to teach online is not as easy as learning how to use Zoom, let's say, for example.
Yes.
It's not.
Yes.
It requires a wholesale rethinking of how you deliver the subject matter entirely, right?
Yes.
So I teach, let's say, I teach property law, right? And I use a lot of the board when I teach. I draw little squares and I say this is black acre and this is blue acre, and I've just gotten so used to teaching that way,
Yeah.
and my entire lecture is pre-programmed in my head to the point where I know at this point I will say this joke, and to the students it'll seem like the most wonderful, brilliantly made up joke at that point. But I've been doing the same thing for 17 years, right? So it's I already had a script which was working and working well,
Yes.
but now that won't work. Those jokes won't fly in an online scenario. So I've had to rethink. I've had to rethink how to deliver the programs. And
Yeah.
when you're already in a state of flux,
Mm.
so it's not just rethinking how I would do something old in a
Mm.
different platform,
Mm.
but because it's in a state of flux, I've introduced new things
Right.
that I would never have introduced because the old system was already solid, concrete. It worked. You
Yes.
know what I mean?
Yes.
Right? It was just, well, I thought it worked, right? But now that I'm changing it, everything's
Yes.
in a state of flux, right? I can add new elements to it. So now I have introduced pop-up, what's the word? Pop-up graphics
Right.
that come up at that time to show pictures of areas of land that I teach. So, like, say, when I teach this case, Talc against Moxey, we talk about Leicester Square. But this is Leicester Square in the 19th century. But I show them Leicester Square today, which I wouldn't have before. I could have, but
Yes.
I wouldn't have before. But now
Yes.
that I've incorporated that in, it gives the student something different,
Yeah.
right? Then, of course, people have introduced me as well to Kahoot,
Yeah.
which is you can
Yeah.
ask questions,
Yeah.
gamification of teaching and all
Yeah.
of that. And then there are a few other things that we are introducing, right? And so, coming back to the point, I know I tend to
It's all right. That's
I
all right. It's
tend to
great
ramble on,
examples that you're
yeah.
giving us. Yeah.
But coming back to the point is that I think even though this pivotal change happened during perhaps what is the most difficult period in
Yeah.
a lot of people's lives, it was difficult, not to downplay that, but I think that time of uncertainty
Yeah.
allowed us to, it made it easier for people to change. I
Right.
would not
Yeah.
have been able to introduce these changes
Yeah.
in 2015, let's say, for example, because I would have not be, it would have been difficult to convince people why the change was needed. So yeah, the silver lining to the pandemic, which is a dangerous thing to say because it hurt a lot of people,
Yes.
but but the silver lining to the pandemic was, I think, it accelerated change
Yes.
in a way that it wouldn't have if that didn't happen,
Mm.
right? But yes, other than that, the pandemic was tough. But for us, and I say this with a lot of gratitude, but for
Mm.
us in our own unique situation, it didn't affect numbers.
Right.
It did not
Right.
affect. It didn't affect numbers mainly because we were just coming off our worst period ever. So we
Right.
started from a very low base.
Right.
So if this was were to happen, if it was fated that this were to happen, it happened at the best time for us.
I was going to ask whether the switches that you and your colleagues were able to make, whether that was also something that maybe helped with you know the school not suffering as much.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you think?
So the switch to fully online
Yeah.
for that period really helped. So we could continue with classes,
Mm.
and we could continue with classes in a effective way
Mm.
that still resulted in our students doing well in
Mm.
their exams. And a lot of those changes we have kept
Right.
post pandemic
Right.
when we don't have to.
What are some of these changes that you've kept, apart from your jokes, which you don't have to share? Your new material.
So, for example, we do a classes hybrid,
Okay.
right? In a hybrid mode. What that means is students can come physically and then they can choose not to come as well if, let's say, they're sick
Yeah.
or they are from another state or
Yeah.
whatever, right? That has helped us recruit more students. So, from a business point
Right.
of view, that has been useful for sure. But from a student's point of view as well, if traditionally, if let's say you were sick or let's say you had to follow your parents to
Yeah.
go to another country for 2 weeks and all that,
Yeah.
that's 2 weeks worth of subject matter gap in your head that you would have to catch up on
Yeah.
your own. And right now, the student doesn't have to, right?
Mm.
So this is something that I think has helped,
Mm.
right? And then what has also stayed on is this, at least our attempt to gamify our teaching.
All
That
right.
that has stayed on. That has stayed
Follow
on.
programs
Yeah,
and stuff. Brilliant.
which is so we a lot of our colleagues, a lot of my colleagues, um, still use this quiz platforms. Some of my colleagues have started uh, uh, videoing problem questions, as
Right.
in acting it out,
Right.
right? Because now every room has a camera and every camera is attached to, so everyone can be a video producer now, isn't it, right? So they've acted out little scenarios and then they play it out. And so when the teachers see their lecturers on screen, that's already exciting for them for whatever reason, right? They're extremely excited to see that. But then they see Mr. Vishal hitting Mr. Jackson on the head and Mr. Jackson falling down dramatically. It's terrible acting. But that gets them excited.
Yeah.
So when they're all in that state of, oh, Mr. Jackson, so I think their brain, they're fully engaged.
Right.
And then that's when you insert, so what crime has been committed?
Right. Yeah.
What what is the defense,
Yeah.
if there's any, right?
Yeah.
It helps. It helps. Now the assessments are not going to be that, but at least the information is going in
Yeah.
a way that the students are able to consume it better.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying all lectures are done that way, right? But
Yeah.
these elements that were introduced
Yeah.
have remained because we have seen the value of it.
Mm. Mm.
Because when you're standing in front of the class, you can tell when the class is engaged or
Yes.
not, right? Immediately
Yes.
you can tell. And we see when we do things like this that all eyes are on you, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's very exciting.
So this is going back to the point of relatability that you made
Mm,
earlier
mm.
about how you remain relatable to your students. And
Yes,
I can see
yes,
that
we
this is
try.
what your colleagues are doing.
Yes,
Yeah, all right. So thank you for that. That's great. Um, Earlier you said that you've been at ATC for what now, 23 years?
I've been teaching for 23
Right,
years. There
okay.
was about a 5-year period where I wasn't at ATC.
Okay, so you've been here for what, maybe
Yeah, so
17,
17, 18
18
years,
years?
yes.
Okay. Um, how has your role evolved from the time you started way back as this really
Hmm.
young student, graduate student that you came out, when you graduated and you started teaching, and then grew in your role, and then you left for a bit, and then you've come back and you've grown substantially, even, how would you, um, what are the key areas in which you have evolved in terms of your role?
Okay. So my journey here in teaching in general, but
Mm-hmm.
most of my teaching was at ATC, is I started off just teaching,
Mm-hmm.
right? So my primary responsibility was in the
Mm.
classroom, getting the subject matter
Mm.
across, marking, things like that, right?
Mm.
Then somewhere in 2008, I was given my first role as a manager.
Mm-hmm.
I managed the certificate in legal practice, the CLP
All
department,
right, okay.
right? And then somewhere in 2012, I want to say, yeah, 2012, I I started heading up a bigger department at ATC, which is the LLB, the University of London department. And then in 2015, I left for a bigger management role in a different
Yeah.
institution. And then in 2019, when I came back, my role, which is still my role now, I have overall responsibility for all academic departments.
Right.
So now I oversee 4 departments,
Right.
right, each with its own head, and then about what, 40 lecturers,
Oh
right,
wow.
in the KL campus.
Yeah.
We also have a Penang campus, but I'm not involved with them. So if you were to ask me what is the biggest change in
Yeah.
my role, it would have to be the amount of time I spend managing people.
Right.
So that
Mm.
is the biggest difference, right? So
Mm.
when I started off, I in theory would not
Mm.
have to care about what the person sitting next to me
Yeah.
thinks, right? I just have to do my class
Yeah.
and do it well. Now my role requires me to think about what everybody thinks,
Yeah.
and make sure that they are comfortable, they are well equipped to do their job,
Yeah.
whether they whether a particular person is a problem for the rest of the team doing their job, and then I'll need to sort that out,
Yeah.
or making sure that the team has what they need within reason
Yeah.
to do what they do. So
Yeah.
that has become my role.
Yeah.
I still teach. I still teach because I enjoy teaching, but that has become a secondary part of my role in ATC, right? So
Mm.
on a daily basis, I communicate with the heads.
Mm.
I find out what are the issues with them. I'm a bit more distant from the student now.
Right.
That's something I've noticed as
Right.
well. Uh, I wish it weren't that way,
Yes.
but that I think that's become a reality. But that's why we have good people in place
Yeah.
to handle that, to become the first line
Yeah.
of communication
Yeah.
with the student, right?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely a bit more distant from the student. I think the students know me,
Yes.
but instead of saying hello, now they just look down and quietly walk away, right? So that's, except the students I see in class,
Right.
right? So but that's not many anymore. So that's been the biggest change. So this this leadership position
Mm,
has changed my role here in
mm,
ATC tremendously, right?
mm,
But I think it's also been eye opening for me. It's been a
mm.
learning experience. And I believe that if you want to be a leader, you must have spent time doing the grunt work,
Yeah.
knowing how to do it, so that you can relate to the teacher that says, I can't do my classes at 9:30 because the students are not awake. And so then I said, yeah, that is true. Because if you've never taught a class at 9:30, you won't know that is actually very true. So
Yes.
then let's, because for business or commercial reasons, or to maximize the use of classroom, you can
Yes.
say we'll start classes at 8 and finish at 6, so that there's a lot
Yes.
more. But the reality of it is students just won't show up at 8. And again, coming back to a point I made earlier, you can just decree that students have to come at 8, and
Yeah.
if you don't come, that's your problem. But then
Yeah.
I think that's missing the point as
Yeah.
well. You someone very smart once said, you need to go to the students, right? You need to go to where they are. That was you.
Oh.
And so yeah, those are the biggest changes I've had ever since I started.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it sounds like your role in your leadership role in ATC, um, it has moved into an area where now you are more pastorally caring for your teachers and the lecturers who then have to pass on some of this pastoral care to the students. Would that be,
Yeah, I
yeah?
think that's very, very nicely put. Yeah. So I still, my role would still be caring for the students, but
Yes.
yeah, I don't, perhaps I don't do it directly, but
Yes.
eventually those problems and issues do come to my
Yes.
desk,
Yes.
and then we will sit down with the heads to see how to resolve it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Brilliant. Thank you. Um, Maybe you can also share a little bit on this. I think the landscape of legal education has changed. You know, Definitely changed in the past decade. Maybe you could share a little bit for those who are inspired to become legal educators. Um, what do you believe is the most important quality for a legal educator to have today?
Mm. So I've always believed that teaching is a skill on its own. I say this because in my line of work, I always get very senior lawyers who want to come and teach, and
Yes.
assume that if I'm such a good lawyer, I will definitely be able to teach the young people. So then that's a different kind of teaching, I think. Sharing
Yes.
of experiences and
Yes.
all is and that's important.
Like mentoring or coaching.
Mentoring,
Yeah.
that's very important. But to teach in an, let's say, an academic setting
Yeah.
with a certain course learning outcomes and program learning outcomes
Yeah.
that need to be achieved and need to be assessed in a particular way, and all of that is a different skill altogether,
Yeah.
right? So to answer the question of what would a young person trying to be a legal educator, I think being able to impart knowledge to someone in a way that they can understand
Mm.
is vital. Now, it seems
Mm.
like that is stating the obvious, but it is something that is important, and you must not confuse that with showing off how much you know.
Yes.
So I think a lot of young teachers come to class with jargon, with cases that they've done research on,
Mm.
and all of that, and
Mm.
they overwhelm the student, and then the students just are turned off from you,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So the research is important.
Mm.
You, as a teacher, you need to know all of that 100%, without a doubt.
Yeah.
That would be my second point. You need to work harder than you've ever worked as a student,
Mm,
for sure,
mm, yes.
right? Without a doubt, right?
Yes.
You need to work so much harder than you ever worked as a student. But coming back to my first point, you must, after spending, let's say, 2 hours or 3 hours of reading the material, I think you need to spend almost as much time thinking, how do I present this in a way that someone who has no clue
Mm,
will be able to understand it?
mm,
Because
mm.
your perception of the subject matter is very different. You have a degree, you have a master's degree in that
Yeah.
subject matter. You
Yeah.
are a subject matter expert,
Yes.
right? Your first year law student has no clue, right? So if you are coming in at a very high level,
Yeah.
which is kudos to you because you can understand it at a high level, but that's not doing the job that you have to do,
Mm,
which
mm.
is to get this complex subject matter into the minds of someone that has no idea what it's about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people stop at that 3 hours of getting the subject matter in their head,
Yeah.
and they don't go on to spend another 3 hours or so. This is just randomly picked
Yes.
time, but they don't go on to spend that extra time thinking, I understand this, but
Mm,
how will my, you know, and I always use this, my 5-year-old nephew, how will he understand this?
yes.
And I need to break it down in that way. And when I say a 5-year-old nephew, it's I don't mean that in a condescending way,
Yes. Yes.
but I mean that it needs to be broken down for someone to understand who doesn't have that
Yeah.
knowledge, right?
I've always heard them saying that you need to be able to explain something to a 6-year-old.
Mm.
So you've got maybe a genius nephew, I don't know, but it tells us the level of our language and where we're pitching it at.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and it's not so easy if you have to lose the jargon and lose
yeah.
the yeah. So,
Because for us at ATC, we don't have a classroom full of, you know, 4 A stars on their A levels,
right,
or 4 A levels on the STPM, four A's on the STPM. We don't, right? We have plenty of those, but we also have students that have come in with 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 pre-university qualifications that are lesser,
right,
right? In terms of how well they did.
right.
But it's your responsibility, or it's my responsibility, to teach them all equally,
Yes.
right? So again, if you're just teaching to the 2 rows that sit in the front of your classroom and all that, you're not
Yeah.
doing your job well, in my opinion.
You've actually sort of answered in a way that leads to the next question that I want to ask you. Um, how do you approach helping students who are struggling or who are unaware of their path?
Mm.
Um, how do you balance the need for academic rigor with the need to support students' well-being?
So what I said earlier does not necessarily amount to what some people will say dumbing down the law,
Yes.
right? It's not. I disagree with that. You're just presenting it in a more accessible way for more people, right?
Yes.
So let's say we've got someone in class that doesn't speak English so well. That does not mean they're unintelligent, right?
Yes.
Obviously, right?
Yes.
So being able to break it down, or someone else whose brain works better with numbers, let's say, for example, whose brain works better with pictures. So
Yes.
so it's just presenting the information differently. So if a student is struggling in class, I think the first thing to do is to find out why,
Mm,
right? Find out why. Is it just because the student is not paying attention, is being lazy? Because there are students like that as well,
mm,
right?
mm.
Let's not kid ourselves. Not
Yeah.
all.
Let's not forget who we
That,
were.
no, no. So let's not have this romanticized version of teaching where, suddenly you'll jump on the chair and the students will all jump on the chair and say, "Wow, captain, my captain." It's not always like that, right? So there are students that are naughty. There are students that just don't want to learn, or they're not ready. They need to
Mm,
be hit
mm.
by life a little bit more, and then they'll
Mm.
come back 5 years later and study again,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So find out why. Find out why. Is it language? Is it just stubbornness? Is it that they study differently? And I think, right?
Different challenges
Yeah,
that may
different
have at
challenges.
home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
things like that.
Mm.
I think it's important to find out why, and then um, guide them in a direction that will help them
Mm.
get better, right?
Mm.
So, for example, if it's just language,
Mm.
then
Mm.
I will always recommend. We've got a tie up with the language school
Mm.
in our building
Mm.
where students can get language classes.
Mm.
We've got English in our foundation
Mm.
program we teach. So
Mm.
if it's language, right? If it's a family problem, then we have counselors on hand.
Mm.
So I will never pretend that I can counsel someone
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's a specific skill on its
yeah.
own, right? So we've got counselors on hand that can help you, and so I sometimes direct them in that direction.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised, lots of students ask for it nowadays,
Right,
right?
right.
They come up to us and they ask for it.
That's
Just
great.
need to speak to someone and things
Yeah.
like that. So I think addressing it, but also I strongly believe that you 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 need to get the students to come up to a certain minimum standard.
Mm.
It's not bringing the standards down,
Mm.
right? So
Mm.
it's easy to say to accuse that, oh, you're just, law is supposed to be difficult. There's supposed to be a
Yeah,
lot of people
yeah,
that fail, right?
yeah,
Now you see every other, you throw a stone off the roof and you'll hit a law graduate. Jokes
yeah,
like that are
yeah.
offensive in my opinion.
Right, yeah. So
Right?
outdated.
Very
Yeah,
outdated in
yeah.
my opinion, right? So it's something that you get the student to come up to that standard. So the days of, if you can't come up to the standard, then you don't deserve a better life, you don't deserve this degree, I think are long gone, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So but you're right, it needs to be balanced. So you're not making the assessments easier.
Yes.
You're not.
Yes.
You're just making the assessments maybe different.
Mm.
So in our UK transfer program, we've got assessments that are the traditional exams, but also we've got debates. And you will
Right.
see
Yeah.
the students that maybe don't do so well in a written
Yeah,
environment,
yeah,
they do brilliantly when they're speaking.
yeah.
Then we have case research presentations and things like that, right? So these various methods of assessment have
Mm.
also shown that different types of people can shine as well.
That's fantastic.
Mm.
So, as academic director, and with this understanding that you have, how do you support fellow educators or junior lecturers, those who are under you, um, in terms? How do you support and mentor them so that they are equally effective in developing students here at ATC?
Okay, immediately what comes to mind that I find the most important is two things. Number one, when we have a training period for
Yes.
new tutors where they deliver mock lectures to a panel of teachers who are experts in the subject matter. But the first thing that I always tell them is, we are not trying to make you into mini versions of us,
Yes.
because it won't work,
Yes.
right? It
Yes.
just won't work. Everyone's personality is different, and their lectures will be catered for their particular personality. So so that's important. So we do have a program where a period where we do training, where we maybe perhaps what we do highlight to them is, this was not explained very well, and someone who doesn't know the law won't get it.
Right.
Because you'll be surprised at the amount of assumption. Someone who has never taught before comes,
Yes. Yes.
and they use words that for them is everyday words, but from experience I know that a fresh student has no clue.
Yes.
So those are things you need to point out, and you'll be surprised how many times we have to bring these young lecturers down, as in the way in which they present. In their mind, they are presenting to someone who is just like them, or they're presenting to us.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry, the teachers, right?
Yeah.
And we have to remind them that that's not the case, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It seems obvious, but not always,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So there is that. But also, I think what's important is, I'm always willing to listen to their ideas.
Right.
Right. So a lot of these ideas that I mentioned, like Kahoot and all this were not mine for sure.
Yes, yes.
It came from some younger people. And there's another one that has just come up in one of our meetings that I have forgotten, so I'm not even going to try to mention it. But it's apparently a new thing that's very exciting. Uh, Padlet?
Padlet.
Padlet? Does that
Yeah,
sound
it's
familiar? No.
not
Okay,
very
never mind.
new, but
I have
okay.
really. Damn it. Uh, so that's something also. So when I get these ideas, you have to approach them with not with how are you going to teach judicial precedent
Yes,
using this,
yes,
right?
yes,
So I say, yeah, so go ahead, do it,
yeah,
right? Do
yeah,
it, and if it works, come teach us, right? So that's actually been working for us, right?
fantastic. Yeah,
So now Kahoot is no longer this esoteric new word for us. Everyone knows it. This other new word which I'm going to go back and learn again. So that's a new thing, but it's ideas that have been brought in. So I think if you empower them,
yeah,
as cliched as that may sound, if you empower them, they will shine.
yeah. I'm a strong believer of that. Um, so I remember that you mentioned that you earlier had some resistance from those who are maybe a bit more traditional and who've been teaching maybe for a lot longer. So how do you get um, people who might be resistant or hesitant to these newer initiatives
Hmm.
to participate and to be more accepting of such
So I think
initiatives?
the key is to not um, force them
Mm-hmm.
immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So let the people who want to try it out,
Mm-hmm.
and when it is obvious that their class has a more excitable attendance
Mm-hmm.
and more people show up for their classes,
Mm-hmm.
when people see tangible results and it's tangibly beneficial for them, I think most intelligent people will fall in line when they
Right.
see that it is something that's useful. But I think that is key.
Right.
That is key to give people the space to learn
Mm.
and to appreciate
Mm.
that that is useful
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
So, but I can also appreciate that that may not work for every new venture.
Yeah.
So teaching a class, one class can be very different from another class. So it
Yes.
works for
Yes.
that, right?
Correct. Yeah.
But sometimes you just have to bulldoze things through, right? So one example that I always quote is we used to have classes on Sundays for
Yes.
for for degree students,
Yeah.
even for the pre-university students. And every year students ask why,
Yes.
and the answer was that's just how it's done in ATC. Uh, but then when I looked into it, the reason was we used to have a lot more part-time teachers,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the part-time teachers can only come and teach on a Sunday
Mm.
or a Saturday. That's not the case anymore. Our
Mm.
reliance on a part-time faculty is tremendously reduced.
Right.
And in fact, it's only on our CLP program now. But that's for good reason because the
Yes.
CLP is a practical course,
Yes.
right? So you
Yeah.
need practitioners. So we decided to not have classes on Sunday anymore and very, very, very few classes on Saturday. So as I'm rolling this out, I was expecting gifts and hugs and kisses that people won't have to come to work on a Sunday anymore. But that wasn't the case.
Oh
There
wow.
was a tremendous amount of resistance, and I was taken quite aback. And the reasons for it was strange. But like if you come on a Sunday, you get another day off. But on a Sunday, I have to just work 3 hours and I get a full day off and all that. Those kind of reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for other people, it was like, no, Sunday classes, I'm just so used to Sunday classes, I want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which seems so strange, right? So in that situation, I couldn't do a let's try half the classes and
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you just have to lay down the law
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
right? So I think there needs to be a balance of both approaches.
Yeah, and contextual.
Contextual,
Yeah,
yeah, it depends.
yeah.
And when, yeah, you need to make decisions on a case by case basis.
Thank you. Um, so the interviews that I'm doing, the theme of this series is pathways to thriving.
Mm.
What does thriving mean to you, both personally and professionally?
Hmm. Thriving to me personally is just, I think, being happy,
Mm-hmm.
not not being bogged down
Mm,
by work when I'm at home, not worrying about home when I'm at work, uh, not, and let's be honest, not worrying about where my next meal is coming from, or
mm, mm,
things like that, not worrying about making my payments
mm, mm,
that I need to make. So thriving is a combination of all of that,
mm,
right? I have a comfortable home environment,
mm,
a comfortable work environment, and it must be real and not a pretense for
mm,
the world
mm,
to see, right?
mm, mm,
It must be genuinely carefree.
mm. Carefree, I like that idea.
Uh,
Yeah. Yes.
it doesn't mean you are not careful when you do things,
Mm,
but
mm,
you shouldn't have this weight on your shoulder all the
mm,
time,
mm,
and
mm.
you must have this ability to. This is a word my wife uses when she describes me, that I don't retain trauma.
That's amazing.
But it leads me to make sometimes the same mistakes again
Ah,
because I'm not as careful. And she said, "This just happened to you 2 months ago. Why are you doing it again?" But he said, "Yeah, I forgot about it." Right? But I would still want to be me, and not retain that, because sometimes I feel the opposite would be, because it happened to me 2 months ago,
yes.
I'm never even going to go in that general direction anymore,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
lose out opportunities or
Mm,
fun stuff that I can do
mm,
there. So yeah, that to me is thriving on a personal
mm.
capacity, and happy to report I'm thriving. And in a work environment, I think thriving is, again, being real.
Mm.
The business needs to be doing well.
Yes.
I can't be, see, in any academic institution, and I think any person who is in some kind of a university, college environment knows about this struggle between the academics and the business people.
Yes.
It's very real,
Yes.
but I think that, if if the academics people believe that things must be done a certain way and only that, and you will not budge, but that results in the business not doing well,
Yeah.
then that's not realistic as well.
Yeah.
So a balance. So a thriving at work means the business is doing well.
Mm, mm.
It doesn't have to be, like making hundreds of millions of ringgit every month or every year. It
Would be
doesn't have to be
nice.
that. It'll be nice, but it doesn't have to be that. But you
Yeah.
need to be able to get everyone happy. Bonuses need to be paid,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then staff will be happy. So for me personally, thriving at work is when all the academics that we have been here for a long time.
Mm.
There's no high turnover every year. Lecturers are leaving,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's not the case for us. So obviously we are doing something that keeps them happy, and when they are
Yeah.
here, obviously there will be little pockets of disagreements, or little
Yes.
pockets of disenchantment
Yeah.
sometimes, but if overall we still are able to provide the environment where the academics can thrive and the business is doing well, then that's thriving in a business environment for me.
Fantastic. Thank you. So to follow up on that, are there habits or mindsets that you that have helped you um, remain resilient throughout your career? Um, yeah, to be
So
resistant to trauma, that
I,
kind of thing.
I'm going to go back to what I said
Yeah,
earlier, which until my wife put it in words like that, I didn't realize. But yeah, I like that, and I've been repeating that quite a bit. So I don't retain trauma, and I don't do it consciously. I think it's just my makeup.
yeah,
So if something bad happens to you, it will, right? You deal
mm,
with it,
mm,
you
mm.
move on. And so just because the last time you dealt with this person, they didn't do a good job,
Yeah,
if I retain that trauma, I would like, okay, we'll never deal with you again.
yeah, yeah,
But because I don't retain trauma and I go and deal with you again because I totally forgot. But this time you did a brilliant job. And so then it works.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but yeah, I understand the problem with that
yeah,
philosophy is that you can make mistakes again and again, isn't it?
yeah,
So eventually you'll have to smarten up. But I think the fact that I don't dwell on
mm,
on past mistakes,
mm, mm,
and I have a naturally optimistic outlook on life. I think
mm,
it helps me do things
mm,
that if I were not this way, I wouldn't even have done it.
mm.
And so that opportunity would be 100% lost to me. But if I had just got, because maybe out of ignorance, so you might be saying this is he's being silly doing it, but I went and did it. It worked the second time. So now
Yeah.
I've done that. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is actually someone who is not afraid of failing, and I think there is more and more recognition
Mm,
for the need for failure.
mm,
Without failing, um, how do you know which way to go? How can you improve? And there are so many calls these days
mm.
from quite a lot of the bigger names out there, um, calling people to not be so fearful of failure. So that's what I'm hearing from you. And
So I think everything needs to be balanced.
yes,
So it's good that we have a team around us that tells us it's not always going to be so rosy, so that when
yeah,
you make
yeah,
decisions, you can make them in an educated fashion, isn't it?
yeah,
Right? With taking account of all the potential risks. But
mm,
yeah, if you don't, okay, I'm going to use your terminology now. If you fear that failure all the time, and you're not going to do things, and you'll be closing doors on
mm,
potential
mm,
opportunities. Yeah.
mm, mm, mm,
I think that's helped me remain resilient.
mm.
Uh, yeah, so I will struggle if you ask me for the worst time of my career or something like that. I've probably blocked it out
Mm.
unconsciously.
So, if all things were possible, anything, so if money wasn't a barrier, if your business owner said anything you want, um, is possible, what innovation or change would you like to see in the field of legal education in coming years? Or at least in ATC, what would you like to see adopted?
I would like to see more acceptance
Mm-hmm,
by the universities
mm-hmm,
for more innovative methods of teaching and assessments,
right.
right?
Yeah.
And assessments. So I would like to see this idea that if your method of assessment is not a 3.5 hour marathon exam where you write out essays for 4 questions, if it's not that, it's not seen as this is an easy degree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think you can assess someone differently.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can assess someone differently. with different methods, and the different skills that they have can come out in different ways, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we've tried to introduce that in the in the bits of the degree that we have control over, but we are not a university,
Yeah.
so we're still bound by the various UK partners that we have.
Yeah.
But more creativity in assessment
Mm.
methods and more acceptance of that. That's the bigger thing, because I
Right.
think lots of universities are being creative.
Right.
I've heard that some of our UK partners, they've taken this gamification to the next level, where when they teach international human rights laws,
Wow.
they get immersed in a VR scenario where you're walking through a war zone and you're seeing this general tell his commandant, kill and rape everyone in this
Oh, wow.
village. So the trick, I mean, the key is, can you, the issue is always, can you hold the leader of the country guilty for genocide, let's say, for example, right? But you must be able to show that he gave the instructions. But so that when you set up the case, right? So they will give you this different little uh, scenarios that you see
Yeah.
firsthand instead of just writing it down in an exam
Right.
question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then, and I was amazed, but then I hear people, you see, that's why you go to that university, you just play a few games and you can pass the
Oh,
exam,
no.
you know?
Yeah.
So I think the innovation is there, but I feel sometimes the acceptance
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
is needed. Uh, yeah, I think that would be. I am a traditionalist also, in a way that sometimes I do think you just need to shut up and read, right? I do, but I it's the assessment methods that I think are important for me. The different assessment methods and things like that. I think that would be great if we could, if I had full control over that.
Yeah.
That'd be there'd be a lot less assignment writing and exams,
And
I think.
marking.
Yes,
I see
markings.
where you're going.
Marking's the worst.
So, Daniel, as we come to the end of our interview, I have a question about um, your career as you look back, um, or even for your present. Um, what are you most proud of in your career so far?
I'm most proud of students
Mm-hmm.
that when they joined us,
Mm-hmm.
they could hardly string a sentence in English. And when they graduate, they go on to be extremely successful lawyers arguing cases in English.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So it's not a single case that I'm
Mm.
telling you, but I think that's what is most satisfying. I think when the weaker student comes back home with a degree that changes his family's entire economic status, that's
Yeah.
going to change, right?
Yeah.
His entire family's economic status. That is the most exciting bit.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm equally excited when a student gets a first class honors degree and things like that. That's
Yeah.
awesome,
Yeah.
right? But when this guy that deep down in my heart, I had also written him off,
Yeah.
but he, goes on to do well. He takes longer, but he struggles. He goes on to do well, and as it turns out, his skills were not sitting down and writing out an essay in 3 hours.
Yeah.
But you don't need that in practice,
Yeah.
right? You need that resilience. You need that grit, and he has that in spades.
Yeah.
It shows in practice. That's, I think, the stories that make me the happiest. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for agreeing to be interviewed. And thank all of you who watched this interview with Daniel Abishegam. If you've enjoyed this interview, hit subscribe, like us, and let us know who else we should be interviewing in the future. We hope this conversation has inspired and encouraged you on your own path toward authenticity and growth. Stay tuned for more stories and insights from Progressive Pathways Consulting. Thank you. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.